Samy here today, Market Intelligence Lead at Ketchapp, to host what we hope will be the most interesting panel of this AGC edition. Three glorious guests for our discussions today, coming from different areas from the globe, working with different publishers or even self-publishing. Their studios are serial hitmakers, and they're here today to share some insights on their actual experiences. At the end of this discussion, you'll know what really happened behind the curtains. We'll try to go beyond the pure marketing success stories to truly understand what it means and what it costs to become a hitmaker. That's the light and unambitious program of our panel today. I will now let these OGs of the HC industry introduce themselves. Please, guys, go on, tell us a bit about your stories.
Right, yeah, I'll go first. So I'm Louis Giraud, CEO and co-founder of HSEC. We're a studio based in France. We created the studio with a very good friend of mine in 2015. And the original pitch for the studio was to just publish 2 games per week and see what sticks, try to test the concepts with real users before deciding if we should update the concepts or put them in the trash bin. So yeah, I guess we can say we invented hyper-casual, just joking. And then we moved on. We worked with Voodoo for a year on the publishing side of things because we knew how to make a lot of games. We knew how to prototype super fast and have fresh ideas, but we didn't know the business sides of things. So with Voodoo, we learned a lot on what to test and how to market games. We kind of learned a lot along the way, and then we felt like going full stack and doing our own user acquisition and marketing would be a better fit for HSEC. So that's what we did in 2019. We upgraded the studio to full stack, and we kind of grew from there. We released Trivia.io in 2020. Which got 25 million downloads at the moment. And then in 2021, we kind of moved forward with our plan to make a bit deeper games and more content in the games we published. And so we moved towards hybrid casual, as we call it. And since then, we released Idle Army and Hero Squad, that are 2 games based on the kind of Army license we developed, and we are moving on from there, and a lot of things planned in 2022.
Great to hear. Ivan, maybe?
Yeah, sure, why not? So I represent Highcore Games. We're based in Belarus. So in our company, we have like 2 divisions. One division is older than the other. So the first one would be midcore. And only in 2020, we have started to develop hyper-casual games. So we basically started a new division. And just so happened that our first launch was our successful launch with the release of Hoopstars. So basically, some of the questions which you, Samy, plan to ask in the future, they don't really match with our story, but I'll improvise. So basically now there are 35 people in hyper-casual department. We have like our main title, Stealth Master, and the team there is quite big already. So it's basically like a proper team with live ops and updates and everything that's needed. And it just so happened that because the Stealth Master became quite big, it sort of ate out the rest of the teams, and they all joined the development of Stealth Master. So we only have now one other team that is working on the new title. And this year we are going to split Stealth Master team and start a new project, which is already basically in a prototyping stage. So yeah, lots of plans for 2020. Let's just hope that we are going to like make at least 50% of them.
Sounds exciting. Maybe to finish.
Yeah. Hi everyone. Hi Sam. Thanks for inviting us to this cool session. I'm the CEO and founder of Garawell Games. We are based in Istanbul, and we have started developing hyper-casual games in 2019. during summer, but that was like kind of amateur. Then we founded our company at the beginning of 2021, January 2021. Up until then, we had created like 50 to 60 prototype as a studio. We were working with Voodoo. After our foundation, we've started working with Supersonic as a publisher, and as you may know, Bridge Race was launched in March 2021. That was our first successful story, and it became a hit, like a mega hit. Now it's like the most downloaded hyper casual game of 2021, as you may all know. And our second hit game, which is the most downloaded hyper casual game of the last 2 months, is in the mid stage at the moment, and it's launched. It was launched December 2021. We worked around for at least 150 prototypes until now, only hyper casual. Up until now, it was hyper casual, but obviously we have some new plans for 2022 and future as well. Yeah, that's our story, and we are a team of 11 people, by the way. At the moment, we are looking to enlarge the team with new developers, new designers, and new staff member as well.
Well, that's really cool. We have a really nice variety of situations here, not very different stories and very different paths. One thing that I would like to understand is, so whether it's for Trivia.io or maybe Stealth Master or Bridge Race, did you feel before the testing phase, did you already had this intuition that those games would be different, that they would hit the next level, or was it just randomly like any other prototype, something that you discovered with the first results?
Let me go first, maybe then.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm sorry, Louis. Basically, our first game was Hoop Stars, actually, and with Hoop Stars, it's just exactly as you said. It clicked from the very beginning. So on the early prototype stage, it was. I'm not sure whether you guys are familiar with the game Hoop Stars. It's just basically hoop that is jumping over the ball in the center of the screen. And at first it was just that. So it was on the gray background, the gray hoop, no texture, and the gray ball in the middle. And I played like 1,500 times, scoring that. And it clicked from the very beginning. And we were discussing that you just get obsessed with the game. You just can't stop playing. And it was extremely exciting that the majority of our users felt the same. So the day one retention was through the roof, like over 65% of day one, and some people struggled with controls in the very beginning, and that's something we never resolved to the full extent. But basically, this obsession was there from the earliest prototypes. Which is why it feels like we have this sort of gut feeling inside of our studio that if it feels that this game, you just get obsessed with that, you just can't stop playing the game, then it is something good indeed. And this same thing, similar thing, happened with Stealth Master. But when it comes to Stealth Master, it was supposed to be a different game at the very beginning. So it was supposed to be a game about parkour, but when the game was preparing to soft launch, the other game about parkour launched. I don't remember the name exactly, but we had to pivot. And when we decided to pivot, we just decided to add people whom you would cut with the blade, which is quite a weird pivot. But anyway, so yeah, and we felt again this click, this obsession, even though we had just a couple of levels. You kept playing on and on, trying to find new rules for yourself. I want to complete the level without killing anyone, or I would like to complete everything and destroy every object on the map. Those kind of things that you challenge yourself. So a game won't give you that challenge. But if you have this click inside of the game, I think that's just perfect. And I remember feeling exactly the same thing when I saw soft launch of Bridge Race. I remember we were discussing that inside of our studio, that look, this is going to be a huge hit, because you just can't stop playing that. And I'm wondering whether you had the same thing inside of your studio.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, I was gonna say I totally agree with your point of view. Like, we also test these games, while prototyping. As everyone in the studio tests the games just for bugs sometimes, and up until then, I can be honest with that. The prototypes that we created until Bridge Race, we tested them for finding bugs. We tested them as testers. But on the day of Bridge Race, like when we first made it a full game for the soft launch, I remember that we were in the studio and we were like kind of late, like 9 p.m. In the evening, and we could not stop ourselves from playing that game for hundreds of levels while in the studio, while in the building, office. And I remember saying to myself, like, yeah, if we have the guts, like, we feel like this is going to be a huge hit if we do the right touches on this game. And as you said, games need strategy in them, and you can feel that you can do various stuff in the game. And I think most of the hyper casual games out there, including the failed prototypes that we have done before, lack strategy in them, lack depth in them, and you can see whether either they're copies of other games from the past, or not really giving the freedom of play to the player and not making them enjoyable enough. But totally, like you said, like, we've played this game for many hours, and I played it myself, like maybe more than 10,000 levels by now, and most of them are for testing. But at the same time, I feel like I also enjoy this game. And we kind of had a motto when we first founded our studio, which was like, people should like our games. By people we mean a huge audience. And if, like, a bunch of people in your studio, if you cannot convince everyone that this is enjoyable, this is fun, then you should think twice about it. I mean, if you are a couple of people in the studio, 10 people, if 2 of them think this is not fun, then you should do something to fix that problem, or maybe go on with another project. But you're just a test audience here, and you have to like it. This is a kind of like restriction, but you have to like it before you launch it.
Yeah, I definitely agree on all of this. One of the good indicators is when you're testing the game to reproduce a bug, or just to check a feature, and you find yourself playing for 5-10 minutes, and then you realize that you completely forgot why you were playing in the first place. But it's a bit different from me, because I feel games and prototypes fall into 2 categories. We have the games that we try to work on because there was a cool idea, and then we get to the prototype phase and we say, let's launch it and see if it sticks, but we don't really believe in it. And then we have the other games where you have the gut feeling like, okay, this is huge, this is awesome, I love this game, it's the best thing we've ever made. And then even from there, we had some projects that completely failed, and where we were really surprised that the game that we couldn't let go of in the studio didn't click with the audience, or we couldn't find the right approach for the concept. But yeah, for the hits, we always have this feeling of this game is huge. But I'd say all the games with this feeling don't always turn out to be hits at 8sec anyway.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Do you have the same, like, so intuition plays a huge role in the ideation from what you just described, and you can kind of feel before the first test, even though there are, of course, some mistakes, and that's why data-driven techniques are here to guide us. Do you have a similar approach on more content-heavy games? Maybe so Louis at 8sec, or Ivan with the game like Stealth Master that evolved to something maybe deeper than traditional hyper-casual. Did you first just focus on the core, fun, enjoyable core, and you had this intuition, or do you adapt your processes? Do you work longer on a core to make it richer? Do you have any insights on this?
We can work longer on a concept if we feel there's a technical need for it, like more animations or more technical challenges to make the core gameplay. But we never spend too long on content and level design, or in Trivia.io. I just wrote 50 questions in one afternoon, and we tested the game with this. And if everyone goes to the end of the questions and you drop, it's a good sign. But making 1,000 questions before the game is proven is a bit more of a gamble, we think.
Totally, but maybe I was more speaking about your army type of games where there's more content, more the game is probably more prod heavy. In this kind of cases, is this different?
Sure. So for Hero Squad, which is the more heavy content side, we just started the game with a super simple concept. We had 3 or 4 different rooms and 3 or 4 units. And so in the game, you play with your hero, and once you clear room, you can add more units to your squad. And we just launched with no loot box systems, only 3 units, super simple levels, and just tested the games this way. And the KPIs were already super high. So then we went back to the drawing board and we kind of put on paper everything we wanted to make in the game, but we really focus on testing the first version of the game in 2 to 3 weeks maximum.
Okay, interesting. Maybe now a question that indeed won't work with the with the event, since the first, well, you already had your mid-core activities and the first game you launched worked, so you're out for this one. Sorry, but
No worries.
but yeah, during the days without releases, maybe especially maybe if you want this one, what allowed you to keep on going? Did you work on your own money? Did you benefit from a publisher support? Private investment, I don't know.
I had my own business in travel industry, totally different, but I'm a computer engineer. So in the beginning, I was funding myself. So the reason was I believed I could, come up with these ideas, and with the capabilities of my team. I mean, before it wasn't established as it is now, but I believed that I could create a team and come up with these nice ideas which could be different, innovative, unique from the other ones out there. So that was like the best motivation for me. Like, we could find different ideas. That was simply as that. And being a computer engineer and a game enthusiast, I dived into it. And I think for many industries out there, it's kind of hard to come to this stage in the industries. But for hyper casual, I think this is one of the advantages. If you do the right things, it can take a short amount of time to become a huge member of this industry. And I think we achieved that, and we believe we will do even more stuff in the future. So the motivation was that we could bring something new to the market, and we believe we will do that in the future as well. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Louis, maybe something on this, this period before the first hit?
Yeah, totally different take. At 8sec, we founded the studios with the other Louis, and we went the more classic route of startup founding. So we had a fundraising round, a pre-seed round of just business angels that would support the studio just for giving us the time to really find the processes and the fit for 8sec and the market. So that's what we pitched in 2015. We pitched to investors that we would try a lot of ideas and let the market decide. And it was a bit a novelty thing at the time, because most studios focused heavily on one idea and hoped for the best after months or years of development. So we went this route. And so this allowed us to find the processes and then work with Voodoo. And then to make the jump to full stack studio, we made another fundraising round with a French venture capitalist that allowed us to hire more people and try a lot more things to get better games and better hits.
Okay, very interesting. And what did your first launch change for your studio in general, in terms whether it's from an organization point perspective or on your objectives, the scale over your studio? What evolved after the first hit?
Well, first, you just validate that what you've been working towards is reachable and that you're capable of doing it. So it's a pretty big milestone, and the feeling you get when you finally have one game that's sitting in the top charts is really awesome. And then in the studio, you kind of learn, okay, what did we do differently with this game? Why did this one finally work and not the 300 before this one? And then you adapt to try to get the most of the process you used and kind of shave off the least useful steps from other games, if that makes sense.
And do you feel that it helped you, like this reaching this first hit, understanding why and how did it help you reaching the second one?
It helped us because Trivia.io was a bit different from the other games. A lot of people in the industry told us that trivia games would never work, and there was way too much text in the user acquisition, and people didn't want to read and didn't want to be confronted to their maybe lack of culture in some areas. And so we had a really strong gut feeling about this concept, that the market, our peers in the industry were wrong about this one, and that we would make it work. And so when it did, and everyone was like super happy for us that we proved them wrong, it validated that there's a lot of data in hyper casual, but there's also a good deal of intuition. And if you really believe in a concept, it's worth putting some work and trying to make it work. Not forever, but just to make sure that the idea, that the data is backing or discarding the idea.
All right, Nebih, what about you? Did you feel like the launching Bridge Race, did it change the way? Yeah.
I mean, firstly, it gave us a clear vision of what was going on in the launch phase. I mean, that's a totally different experience from just coming up with prototypes every week or so. But I think one of the most important parts was that publishers, as they were telling, they wanted us to create like a prototype per 3 days sometimes. Like in 3 days, you have to come up with a prototype, and each month we were creating maybe sometimes 8 to 10 prototypes. And obviously, we wanted to make some innovative things in the industry, and not all of them were kind of like ideas that we really were hyped about. And after Bridge Race, what we have done until Color Match was that we have stopped this speedy production periods, and we just like kind of smoothened the procedure by giving it a week or two, sometimes 2 weeks, for just a simple idea, because we believe that the prototype should maybe change in the middle of the development procedure. Like, you shouldn't just say, I will finish this prototype and send it to test at the end of the week. But yeah, you can do that in the plans as well. But if you maybe on the third or fourth day of the prototyping phase come up with something different that could add up to the game that you're already creating, maybe you should give it another week. And that's what we have done with many of the other prototypes that we created after Bridge Race. And it kind of worked, because with Color Match, the prototyping phase, yeah, it was kind of fast. It actually took us 2 or 3 days. But since some of the KPIs were really low with the first test, we said, okay, let's try it again, because we believe this is a nice concept. Why not? I mean, we don't have to jump on another concept. And that was kind of clear vision for us. And obviously, in the launch phase, as I said, the placements of the ads kind of it wasn't our experience before. We thought of new strategies of where to place the ads in Color Match by ourselves instead of just getting opinion from the publishers. So that was kind of like a know-how that we created on our own as well. And with Color Match, if it took us 3 months to come to a full period of the game, like full version of the game, with Color Match it was maybe half of that time, and that's obvious because we had experience from Bridge Race. So yeah, I could say that.
Do you guys spend more time on game design or in game development and programming when you say you extended the time you work on games?
Actually, ideas. I mean, we come up with an idea, and it may depend on the design of the different design of the work or different mechanism in the game. But I will add, since you asked this, I will add another thing. Even if you don't change the game, even if you don't change anything in the game, what we have done with some games to extend this testing period was to come up with different creatives of the game. Even with the same game, we said, okay, we are just sending out an advertisement of 25 seconds to the market, and that should definitely have an impact on the visuals or core mechanism. And we sometimes reviewed our creatives and said, like, maybe we should try a different creative, maybe we should just skip to the 11th second, I don't know, and start it from there in the creative.
Sure.
So we sometimes had this change as well, but it was an overall change, not just solely depending on the visuals or core mechanism. It sometimes was about changing the game itself, changing the design, changing the background, and changing the creative itself.
That's very
Yeah, that makes
interesting. And one thing that one of the thing that we hear a lot, and like spending more time on the ideation, working more, maybe longer on concept that you truly believe in. Do you feel like 2022, or maybe it was already the case in 2021, do you think that hyper casual production at least is moving from a pure quantitative model to more maybe quality and less quantity? Ivan, is that something that you feel, or?
Well, that definitely happened with our studio because we didn't launch anything in 2021. So we decided to move towards like quality, and we have a game in development for, I think, maybe 3 months now. So it's really long for hyper casual, and it's like all the like mentors, all the books about hyper casual, if there are any, will tell you that you're wrong. You're doing it wrong. You have to go faster. But in our case, we decided that we should focus on the gameplay, so we can easily pivot the idea, and we will just then juggle with it, trying to find the niche. But then we always test it. So yeah, it's not like we've been developing the game for 3 months without any tests on real users. No, it's not like that. So we are testing it after every short sprint, and sprints are short indeed. So they are like from 1 to 2 weeks. So after 2 weeks, we always test what we end up with. And if there's no hope, then obviously we are closing the game. And we had to kill several quite interesting games in 2021. And but well, I mean, what's different with the one we're currently working with is that with every update we see the increase, and we have like an incredible session length, and we have like quite good day one retentions already. So it is something which we believe in, and we believe, which is also extremely important for us, that the team has the vision and that the team has everything that's needed to make a hit game. And we don't want to demotivate the team and stop the game and kill it and tell them that, look, we better focus on something else. Because right now, you all know Storeglide, right? So right now, with the help of Storeglide, we can basically find a better idea in several days, because we see all of the games, and we can and we test all of the games as well, by the way. Yeah, which is which you should all know. Yeah, so we know all the CPI metrics of the games that launch on the market. So basically, if we see some idea that is quite like potentially lucrative from the business perspective, we can focus a team on that. But we decide to move in a different direction. We decide to move in the direction of allowing teams to like grow creativity within it. And then we use Storeglide as a tool to lower the CPI. So the game comes first and the CPI comes second.
That's really interesting as a method and as an approach. Something that, so you guys already talked a bit about the games that were successfully launched. Something that we never hear about is failed launch. Did you already face this situation where you have interesting KPIs, promising ones, maybe not all as good as you would like them to be, but because you lack some experiences, I don't know, maybe before your first hit because you were lacking of experiences, or after because you missed a trend? Did it already happen to you to just miss a launch, an opportunity?
It happened to us actually. I can say that one of our games that we launched, soft launch in the beginning of 2021, it has now 2 copies of it. in the market that's been downloaded tens of millions of times, and the name is really similar. The name of the game was Portal Master, where we have this FPS kind of environment where you open up portals and shoot the ragdolls from one place to another, or boxes from one place to another. I believe the reason for the fail was that we had a niche audience for that game, and many of the FPS games for the hyper casual industry had this kind of problem, where we started off with 40 cents of CPI in the beginning, and after testing for a month or so, we saw some spike in the CPI to even like something like around 75 cents or so. But the in-game metrics, like playtime and retention, were kind of really high. Like we had 20 minutes of playtime, 45% of day one, and around 10% or more day seven. But I believe in our case, at least, it was because of Bridge Race, which collided with the soft launch phase of Portal Master, which killed the Portal Master. And actually, when I look back at it, I think it was the right decision, because you should, as a team, if even if you are a huge team, I believe focusing on one game that's promising is better than splitting your team up into two. But that depends on, of course, the amount of developers and designers you have in your team. But in our case, we had to focus on Bridge Race more. But now we see tens of millions of downloads by other games like Portal Gunmaster 3D and Portal Hero 3D. They're like right after our game, Portal Master. But yeah, we are happy that we had that experience as well. It was a failure, but it teaches us something, and that's good to know that some games are niche, and as you try to scale them, the CPI spikes. We had a first-hand experience. We were hearing a lot about these scaling CPI issues in the market, but we experienced firsthand, and that was good. That was actually a nice experiment for us.
Louis, is that also something that you experienced at some point?
Yeah, we had one game that was heartbreaking for me. We had found a super cool plugin to make ropes and chains and this kind of tech. And so I came up with the idea to untie knots with the 3D plugin. And so we worked on this for about a bit longer than what we were used to do at this time, because the plugin was very unstable. And so when we started to launch the game, we had really good KPIs, and Go Nuts 3D came out right the same week, something like that. And it wasn't even a matter of someone copying another. It was just we had the same idea at the same time, and their UA completely destroyed ours. We saw our CPI explode well above the $1 mark, and so we weren't able to compete with this. And it was hard for me because I love puzzle games, and we finally had something that was very original and yeah, they made the game simpler than ours, and but a bit more sexy looking. So it's something you can learn from too, because you see someone making your ideas a bit better, and you think, oh yeah, we should have thought of this. We should have taken this approach, and you learn for the next ones.
Really interesting as well. Moving on to maybe another question. When you look back at what you achieved, what you did with your studio, do you have any regrets? Do you have, if there was one mistake that you could fix retrospectively that would help you save a lot of time, or what would it be? Ivan, maybe. Tough one, I know.
Yeah, that's a tough one, because I mean, there's so many. Where should I even start? And to find a leading issue there. Well, yeah, probably mine would be is to put more trust in the team and get less involved in the in every process there is. I in 2020, I think, or maybe in 2021, I don't remember now exactly, but there were two games which I was extremely fond of. I really wanted to make them, but team didn't feel like it. I mean, they were like, well, okay, we can do it if you really want to, but it's not going to be good. And the game was something about archaeology, something about digging up like bones and or some stuff, and then like doing the dinosaur and putting it in the museum, and it was like really nice haptic feel when you would dig out stuff out there. And we would do the game, and we even did one dinosaur there. Or not, maybe not a dinosaur, I don't remember actually. But anyway, it was rubbish. I mean, we just wasted time. And yeah, not only the game metrics weren't there, sorry, nor the marketing metrics were there. So we had to shut it down right away. And one of the issues were that I was well, but I think that's more towards my position, right? I had to focus on other things as well. I was not like 100% focused on the game. So probably the takeaway that some of the viewers can have here is just to stay focused on the game, because I had many things to do, and I just tried to deliver my vision to someone else, which is impossible. And yeah, so basically the entire thing collapsed. So yeah, probably the takeaway would be focus. Yeah, focus more.
That's a good one. Nebih?
I think it's a hard question as well. Like when I look back, there are some obvious mistakes, obviously, but when you look back, obviously these mistakes are actually good for us because we learned from them. It's a cliche thing, but you know, if we did not make these mistakes, then we wouldn't be what we are now. So obviously, in the plan of the, as I mentioned earlier, like prototyping phase after Bridge Race, we've changed it. I mean, some of the ideas that we believed would be a hit, maybe we have a clearer vision now why they would not be a hit now. So on the ideation phase, we have actually learned a lot from our mistakes. Some games we have prototyped, we believe they were unique and nice, but they lacked a lot of the like restrictions in the industry. Like as I said, you need a strategy, you need depth, you need freedom in the game, and we lack these things in some of the prototypes that we created. So it's life, you know. You should learn from your mistakes, and we are not in a position to change them if we want to learn from them. So I guess I wouldn't change any of them. I wouldn't change any of our mistakes in the past.
That's very inspiring. Louis, something
Yeah,
to share?
completely agree with that. We've made some terrible mistakes, and we've spent 9 months on a premium game at the beginning of 8sec because we thought it was the right fit to market, and it crashed completely. But I still love this game, and I'm still proud of it. And it helped us focus on making games based on data. And if I had one thing we would like to change, I say we used to make games with two different approaches at 8sec. One where we had a game idea, a game concept, a gameplay we wanted to make, and then we tried to find a CPI, just like Ivan said. And then we had the other way, which was following a trend of finding a CPI first and then trying to make a game out of it. And this was always really hard to do and really soul crushing, because you find a really good CPI because you had a stupid idea or something you that worked and clicked out of nowhere in a UA, and then you're racking your brain trying to make a gameplay that keeps people engaged out of this, and it's horrible. We had the case with we tried a game with a jump rope, and so it was like one of the first prototypes of one of our new developers, and it instantly was a insane CPI and CTR. And we spent weeks like, okay, how do we make this thing fun, and how do we make it durable? And it was super hard. We made a bit of money, but nothing worth it in the end. And so now we really focus more on the game first, and then trying to find a CPI.
Super interesting approach. And right now that you have this experience, multiple hits released, what's the main pain point that remains? I mean, beyond finding the super 10-cent CPI that we all dream about potentially, but just what's the main pain point when it comes to your daily processes, the things that are not easy to handle on your side? Ivan, maybe.
Can I have some time to think about it? Because I don't
Sure.
really know the answer, to be honest.
No problem. Does this question inspire you a bit more, maybe, Nebih?
I mean, can you repeat it? Because I have
basically the main challenge that you're facing right now with your studio. You have the comfort of having released games that bring sustainability to your studio, the way you're working. But now, what's the main challenge that you're facing? Is it more on the ideation side? I don't know. On the way you structure your teams, the way you, I don't know, anything basically.
I think it might be about motivation for us, because we are motivated to even create more hits in the future. But at some point, if we do another hit like Bridge Race or Color Match, which are top chart games, the first excitement we felt it with Bridge Race, with Color Match actually. When we first launched Bridge Race, it was really, really exciting for us because it was our first hit. I mean, we cried because we were happy. You know what I mean? Like, it was the first hit, and with Color Match, we felt that it became kind of normal. And for every company, I think the growth needs more motivation. Like, we have to create this motivation for ourselves. And in the future, it was one of your first questions. What's the plan for the future of your studio? Like, we want to grow more, and in order to grow bigger, you have to set new targets, new missions for yourself. And if you have made the top chart game and there's no topper game than that, and if you have to set new motivations for your team, and we are trying to build that up for our current management. And as you said, we have to enlarge the team as well, and that's one of the points Ivan brought up. Actually, you have to trust in your team, and we have to work with trustworthy people in our studio. We haven't had any bad experience, not because of that I'm saying, but it's kind of important to have a team member who is also compatible with your team, and you can trust, you can count on. And that's, I think, as a manager, maybe all of us are facing this, one of the hardest points to crack. And you have to always enlarge your team with trustworthy members. Yeah, simple as that.
Yeah,
Did it
you
bring
have
any
to.
inspiration? Yeah. Yes,
Yeah, I can answer to give even more time maybe.
No, I'm ready already, but I mean, you can go ahead.
I was gonna say something a lot more mundane and less inspiring, and it's the latest iOS privacy features are making it really harder across the board. I know it's a bit of a trope now, and we've all went through the IDF apocalypse, but it's getting a lot harder to test CPI and get valid results on UA because there's the anonymous attribution window that makes it difficult. And then ad revenue went down a lot with the venue of the kind of pop-ups and privacy features. So this is the main technical challenge at the moment, I'd say. And then just to piggyback on what Nebih said, it's a lot of challenge to keep people motivated before the hits, and then after the hits to kind of make sure that the right people stay with you and are super happy to work as a team. And so that's something we are very proud of. We try to make everyone feel like one team at 8sec, and we have because we are only 20, it's a lot easier to feel like one unit and one family. And I expect it to be a lot harder this year when we grow a bit more.
It's definitely going to become way harder. I can tell you from where I'm at. So the challenge is, and actually, Nebih, your response was really close to what I was feeling about it. But it's more of an expectation management. Basically, now that, for example, Stealth Master team, they already have the Stealth Master. No longer would they want to make some runner with a fat ass, right? So obviously they want to make something even bigger than that, and and they expect to have at least the same level or perfect, or even above than Stealth Master. Well, not even, but definitely above than Stealth Master, and that's the that definitely comes to motivation. But I'm really struggling to think what's the key takeaway would be for the audience, because obviously not all of them they have like some proper hits on the market. But I think that the motivation of the team is the crucial thing, and we already have a perfect answer about that. So definitely focus on motivation the most, because you want to work with people who think alike, act alike, and that would share the victory then altogether.
And I'd say it starts with the founders. You yourself
Obviously.
have to stay extremely motivated and trust in all the new ideas, even if the previous one failed.
Definitely.
100%.
That's really interesting to see that in the end, because, well, studios before the hits tend to find, well, except when, as Ivan, they launched the first game they test, but usually it's quite it can be difficult, you know, to test games, to kill them on the long run. That's usually what we hear the most. We've tested 100 of games, never launched it. That's becoming difficult to handle, morally speaking. Then you have the hit, and still the motivation, like you set the bar almost too high, and then you have to reproduce and to do something even more impressive, even better. That's super interesting, and yeah, to find a like cohesion in the team and to make it work from that perspective sounds like a big challenge, but an interesting one for sure. Now regarding maybe more the market from a product oriented view, we tend to see two sort of directions on the market right now. The classic low CPI chase, fast runners, as Ivan just said, on one side, and on the other, some things that are getting maybe more hybrid, richer, maybe closer from what you guys did at ATEC or Highcore. First, do you agree with this vision? Do you think there's a separation that is, well, like the market is going in two different directions? And do you, if yes, do you focus on one or the other part of this hyper casual market? How do you balance basically the way you approach the market?
Yeah, well, I think that well, at least in my eyes, the market is definitely currently being split. So and it even brings me back to our like previous discussion like a couple of minutes ago, that somebody was doing the same idea that you guys did as well, and that was puzzling, that nobody stole from you. They were just doing the same idea, and they came up with a better resolution of the idea. And that's interesting that you can now all see how many new companies are coming with the idle arcade, right?
Yeah.
So, and it's even puzzling that it's not like they are stealing one from the other. It's just the ideas are there, and the games are way more complex. Like My Little Universe is probably the benchmark for the successful idle arcade game right now, and it is definitely way more complex game. It is definitely the game that would require the continuous support and a way stronger team that has already some experience behind their back. So for like smaller studios that don't have any hits, I would probably not advise to go in that direction just yet, because it requires way more effort to work with a game like that. And then there are runners, endless runners, and they still work, right? So it's not like people and studios do them and they just want to find another way to make some object run and collect and multiply, or then do the math or whatever, right? So it means that they are working. So this probably is the easiest thing to follow, right? So definitely there is a split, and there are many reasons for that split. One would be the paper prototype thing that is now dying out, but it's way easier to do the runner than something more complicated, and that for smaller studios that definitely strive to do the hit. They need something simpler than the complex thing. And then there's studios, which circles back to my previous thesis, right? Or my previous idea is that you have to manage your expectations because you definitely want to do something bigger. So more complex projects, which are now called hybrid core or hypercore or whatever core, right? So you want to make the games that would not only bring business metrics, right, money, but it would also bring you some sort of a like pleasant feeling inside, right?
Yeah.
So I did a game that was extremely challenging for me and for my studio, but then we succeeded. But we did that because we have the skill and we have what it takes, and we already have money for that.
So if I understand well, basically the old way, the low CPI chase would be a sort of first step before you can move, in your eyes, before you have the experience to move forward to something bigger and maybe more satisfying from a creator's perspective.
Yeah.
Do you guys, Louis, Nebih, agree with this point of view?
Yeah, I mean, you have to. If you're just starting out and you don't have the experience, as Ivan said, you have to make simpler games to try to learn and kind of build your own game template, be able to make better game faster. And so studios with a lot of experience are able to put out either arcade prototypes or anything in a week. But when you're just starting out, you need something simple. And the runner is always going to work. It's the take and the originality of the concept that will help it help define it. And so we definitely see the split in the market. And I think it also boils down to the creative side of the studios. We are already focusing on hybrid casual and more deeper games at HSEC, but we do not forbid ourselves to dabble in a trend once we have a sexy idea for a quick hyper casual games. We don't hesitate to try it, and it's also refreshing for the teams because instead of working on complex projects, they can just ship a runner or ship a super simple game, and it kind of allows you to relax a bit before going into the next complex project.
I also agree with them, Luis and Ivan. Like, we have to also consider if we have a nice idea for a hyper casual game, we definitely dive into it. But yes, there is a hybrid game trend now, like with the idle arcades. But I believe that trend is set by the audience itself. Like, you know it better, Samy. Like, before, Ketchup was doing endless games instead of level-based games, but the trend changes and the market evolves, and now we're at a point of maybe different games are gonna take over the market. But we also have to know that it's not a two-road way, and it's maybe there are gonna be different genres out there that we should explore as well. But it's definitely true that it's going to be more time taking for studios to come up with a product in this case. And if you have a runner idea, as Ivan said, like, always like trendy, we always see it in the top charts, some runner games. So you can take your chance with a runner game if you don't want to spend your 3 months or 4 months of period just to come up with a failure, because at the end of the day, just as we talked before, the motivation of the team is important, and you have to consider the worst case scenario at the end of this production period. But it's something that at Garawell we are taking our own way of creating idle arcade games as well, and maybe hybrid casual games as well. I mean, it's something that studios should experiment, but not by allocating 100% of their resources to them, I believe. Yeah.
Okay, guys. Well, that's super interesting. We have 5 minutes left, so final question, I guess. You guys have already great games behind you. You've been working with different publishers, self-publishing for 8sec now. What's the end game for a hyper casual studio or a gaming studio in general? Is it to self-publish? Is it to be acquired by a publisher? What's your vision on the long run? What's your expectations, basically? Ivan, if you want to start, yeah.
Right. Okay. So if we're talking about ideas for the future or the future plans rather, so we definitely are considering the move towards self-publishing. We already have a lot required for that. We already have like the store glide. We're already like testing many things. So it's just a logical next step for us. So for 2022, we plan to do just that. That said, we plan to keep working with our partner, Say Games. We're extremely happy working with them. So we will see how doing two things in parallel will have to work with current relationship with the publisher and our self-publishing and yeah, so we also plan to grow because, like I said, the majority of the team has been now focused on Stealth Master. And by the way, when I said 35 people, I didn't split the like trend watching team that is working with Storeglide. It's like a separate team. They don't produce games, but they are still there. We count them in. So yeah, now we plan to grow quite reasonably, add, well, let's say at least 15 people during this year to be able to produce more games simultaneously. And finally, the Stealth Master team is now split, and we're like working on quite big and interesting game. So yeah, it's going to be interesting and challenging, like I said in the very beginning.
Sounds good. A nice loop. Maybe.
We are also considering self-publishing as well. We will explore it, definitely something we will do in 2022. But also there are other ways to explore, like we are exploring multiplayer games. That's something not done with hyper casual games a lot. Like
Give me a ring.
Which game?
No, I said give me a ring because I mean
Give me a ring.
we know a lot about multiplayer, and this is exactly what we're doing right now as well.
Great.
We'll have to have a separate call on this, I guess.
Yeah,
because I think it's the trend for 2022.
Right.
Sharing some know-how with each other. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think the market is not, as I said, like focused on only one path. Like I imagine this is something maybe different than what you were expecting as an answer, but we have these devices, like they're just vertically controlled, and sometimes we restrict ourselves to only touching on the bottom of the screen. So we have to prepare ourselves for the future devices, I believe. This is kind of maybe a long term vision, but I believe that these devices that we are using now, maybe the hyper casual market will have to adapt to other devices in the future, which will be more interesting, and it will still keep the same game mechanism, same gameplay, but with different controls, different devices. And this is our long-term vision. Like we can maybe explore VR and AR in that manner, because we all know that these devices are not mass produced at the moment, but they will be with metaverse coming up. Maybe there will be some companies creating these kind of mass market devices which everyone will use. So we try to adapt ourselves to these kind of ideas, but at the same time, as you said, like for a hyper casual studio, there are some really obvious paths, like self-publishing, going mid-core, going casual, going hybrid casual. Like those are some of the paths that we are exploring. But if our team likes to do one of them, we will stick on doing that, because I believe at the end of the day, you have to like what you are doing. And if we will like self-publishing, then we will continue on that. But if we like hybrid casual game development, then we will work with a publisher again to create these kind of games. But at the moment, we are happy to work with Supersonic, but we are in the midst of color match update phase, and the game is still getting new updates. So yeah, That's all.
Thank you a lot, guys. Sorry, Louis, you won't have your word for the end of
No
the
worries.
presentation. I really enjoyed our talk. I hope you guys in the comments did as well. And well, talk to you soon.
See you. Thanks a lot.
See